right. I think we're ready to go. We'll call the meeting to order and turn it over. Is the superintendent on to lead us in the pledge, or someone physically present?
I am here, ready, willing,
right.
and able.
Take
So
it
if
away,
everyone
sir.
at this time would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I apologize. Difficulties. Ms. Strickland, would you take us through the agenda that you have in front of you, please?
Yes, I will absolutely be glad to do that. So we've just had the Pledge of Allegiance, and welcome to the Howell Center school board meeting tonight. It is August the 20th, and I am here live in person. The other board members are with us via Zoom, so we're glad everyone is here tonight and in the fashion they're here. So number 2, changes and additions. Ms. Bowen, are you prepared to read changes and additions?
I am, Ms. Strickland.
Wonderful.
And they are as follows. Item 1, 10.01, 223 Agency, Inc. at Lively Technical College. Reference only number 5621. Move to consideration to provide additional information. This is now item 19.02. Number 2, add item 10.02, Southeastern Therapy Services at Rudiger. Reference only number 5620. This item was originally on the August 18, 2020 school board meeting. Due to technical error, it was deleted. Item 3, add item 19.03, State of Florida Department of Health, standard contract for COVID staffing. Contract was just finalized. Item 4, add 19.04. The superintendent recommends approval to re-advertise amendments to policy 0172, COVID-19 virtual board meeting guidelines for a public hearing and adoption on September 22nd, 2020. This policy is being re-advertised due to additional revisions. I move the acceptance of the changes and additions, Madam.
Thank you, Ms. Bowen. There's a motion by Ms. Bowen. Is there a second? Second. Second by Ms. Wood. Any opposition? Showing none. Show the changes and additions unanimously approved. That takes us, I believe, to, it just clicked off my phone just as I was about to read it. Sorry. The Superintendent Spotlight. Mr. Superintendent.
Madam Chair, we actually have 2 spotlights tonight. We've been saving up, so we're very excited. First, yesterday afternoon, I had the pleasure of visiting the Tallahassee Center, formerly known as the Tallahassee Mall, and was introduced to Dr. Richards, and she has a project called Masks for Class, where her group has been busy making masks for our students at our Title I schools. As you can see, this has got little hands on it, which is really, really cool. I don't want to steal her thunder, but we visited Miss Richards. Her son was there as a part of it. He'll be a sophomore at Leon High School. Also, we have Dr. Stevenson that's involved in this project. As you know, we have about 400,000 white masks that were kind of plain Jane and would show dirt and very easily. They tie-dyed all of our tens of thousands of these that we can distribute to our students on the first day of school. We know many of our kids will have masks, but others will not. We had a picture. I think we have a picture someplace. There it is. There's a picture over here of Dr. Gale and I went to visit Miss Richards, Dr. Richards yesterday and her team. And this is just, it made my heart smile. It was just a beautiful thing. So thank you to Dr. Richards and Dr. Stevenson and all the folks in your team that have made this happen for the children in our school system. I guess today they came by and picked them up. So I'm going to let you all talk a little bit about the project and how things went today.
Okay, hello everyone.
Hello.
We're actually still here with some of the principals. This is Dr. Adrian Stevenson, and I'm Dr. Rick. We're very proud of this project. This really started as a small love that has expanded to nearly 1,000 masks. So we have focused on one elementary schools first. So we were able to meet their numbers as of Monday. But numbers were on Monday, those numbers. We do understand that those numbers may this project to capture what those numbers are going to be, but we're also extending this to other Leon County elementary schools. So we need those schools to make sure that they have their math. We have been tie-dyeing. Oh, if I do not see another tie, we've been tie-dyeing all night. So thankful that we've been able to do this, and we have a slew of volunteers from high kids, middle school students, elementary school students. We have volunteers, sewers, cutters, and we're just happy. This makes our heart smile too.
Your principals are showing up as we speak. We have principals coming in the door to pick up their bags of math.
Well, we cannot thank you ladies enough. It's truly been a labor of love. And you mentioned all of our students who have been helping in this process. And we're going to recognize another Leon County school student here in a minute who's been volunteering and helping out. And we are so very appreciative to you and all of your efforts. And like Board Member Jones has said many times, wearing is caring. And that's a teachable moment for all of our children as we start school on August the 31st. So thank you from the bottom of our heart.
Before we go, we definitely need to give a shout out to because we called him on and he jumped on board. He was even great today.
Yes.
So thank you, Daryl.
We couldn't have done this without him. Thank you,
without you. A step of the way, helping us and
we've had for teachers cut fabric, tie-dye from the district. So we want to thank Daryl Jones and all of the partners from the district for supporting us.
Thank you. Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Bowen.
I am having a terrible technical time. I keep getting a green phone all over my screen in Denver, if you're listening. Is that something I need to do so that I am more plugged into the meeting? Like right now, there's just this large green phone.
Ms. Bowen, that may be one of the attendees on the Zoom call who is calling in using their phone. Okay, so don't worry about that. It may be that they're calling in and you're seeing them because maybe there's some noise, and so it shows up. But don't worry about it at all. You just keep staying there and listening to what's going on. Okay.
We see you just fine.
Yeah, that's what matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, ladies.
Thank you so much for your work. We're very, very grateful, and I think this is calling for a renaissance of home economics. But thank you for your creativity.
All right.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jones?
Yes, I want to acknowledge Dr. Doris Richards, my FAMU classmate, Dr. Stevenson, and thank them so very much for what they've done. This has been a labor of love and how they've been able to identify volunteers across the expanse of our community. And this is just indicative of what we know has been the love that has been shown on behalf of our students and teachers in the throes of this pandemic. This shows exactly how much our community cares. And we're so very, very grateful for you and what we know will be the sustainable impact. I want my colleagues to know Dr. Richards has agreed to do this beyond the start of school. They're going to continue to do this for quite a long time, and her volunteers remain committed. So we want to thank you for what's going to be a sustainable and long-term impact for our students and our faculty. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank
Agreed. Beautiful, beautiful project. We're very grateful for your time and expertise and willingness to jump in and recruit others to help in the effort. Thank you.
you.
All right, Mr. Superintendent, you have another spotlight you'd like to offer?
We do, Madam Chair. At this time, I'd like to bring to the podium Ms. Kim McFarland, who is the proud principal at Roberts Elementary School. She's going to introduce a special student we have with us and tell a little bit about a project she has going on in her school.
Hi, thank you. And I am very excited about this project. Cameron Claude. Cameron came to see me, or actually contacted me a few months ago and brought up the project. His sister actually works for me. So I think that was part of the reason that he reached out to our school. And Cameron's idea was an outdoor classroom, which we've always actually wanted one. We have an outdoor reading garden, but we've always wanted a structure that our students could go outside and sit and learn and listen and read and hear nature around them. So Cameron reached out to me. So I'm going to let Cameron come up and explain this project, but we are very excited and appreciative of everyone who has supported it. Cameron was also able to get all of the funds given by business partners from our school and from other people that he had reached out to, so there was no cost to the school either. So we're very excited and appreciative. So Cameron, come on up.
Hello, everyone. My name's Cameron Claude, and for the past 4 months, I've been working with Ms. McFarland to get this Eagle Scout project under the way. It's an outdoor classroom for Roberts Elementary School, and it's going to be included with 10 benches, a teacher platform for the teacher to stand on, a teacher chalkboard, and then it's going to come with clipboards for the students to use so they can work outside in the sunshine. What inspired this project for me was, as a student, I always loved going outside. And I thought it'd be good to give back to the students and let them get outside, because I feel like that would be good for them to, especially like in the pandemic time, like getting outside, getting fresh air, that'd be good for the students. So I'm really excited for this project. I hope it goes well. Do you guys have any questions for me regarding the project?
Well, Cameron, like I said a minute ago, I just want to say thank you. I've said for many years that what our students do in the classroom, on the athletic field, and in the arts is important, but for you to learn at a young age to give back and help others in need, that lesson's invaluable and probably one of the greatest lessons we can ever teach you. So you're quite a role model for the other 33,000 students we have in our school system. I'm just so very proud. I know I speak for Principal Burgess and all the administrators and teachers at Childs High School. Thank you, thank you,
Thank you so much.
More. I see more.
I was trying to add my voice to that. Really grateful. When I saw reports on the very national news outlets of folks who were building outdoor classrooms and creating these creative spaces for learning, which are all the more important during a pandemic, I've always appreciated the Eagle Scout projects and the Boy Scouts and their service ethic. I'm not to add pressure, but if any of your Scout mates would like to replicate such a project on other campuses across the expanse of our district, as Mr. Jones would say, I'm sure that other principals would welcome the opportunity to hear from them and their ideas. But what I especially appreciate is that you came with an idea which is in the form of a solution and it's funded. And so for you to be able to use your own experience in fundraising and finding partners to contribute financially to a project like this is really extraordinary and much, much, much appreciated. So kudos to you and your Scout masters and your parents who took you to Scouts probably from the time you were, 3 or 4 as a Tiger Cub. Having lived that life for a long time, kudos to Mom and Dad, and thanks to the administration at Roberts for welcoming and embracing this project.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jones.
Oftentimes when we like to bandy the word about champions for children, we're usually talking about adults. It is so refreshing and wonderful to see a young man like Cameron Claude who in his early years is a champion for children. I think what he has done is remarkable, and it's something worth emulating with other, not only just Eagle Scouts, but certainly with other student clubs and student leaders, and perhaps even our own SAC, our Student Leadership Council. This could be something that they too could replicate. But it's that same type of thinking where we are concerned about, in his case, younger children, I just think is so wonderful and so noble. It is indicative of the wonderful community in which we live. Kudos to our champion, this champion for children, Cameron Claude. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Strickland, I know this is in your district, but I can't see you on the screen from here, so I want to make sure if you wanted to add your compliments and gratitude, I'm sure you would if I were
Yes,
sitting next
thank
to you.
you.
I would know that.
We're in such an odd stance here. I always defer to the chair to take over, but yes, just thank you, Cameron. This is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And like Ms. Rasmussen said, now more than ever, outdoor classroom, what a benefit to Roberts. And I wish we could spin this out. Whoever said encourage the other Eagle Scouts to do this, please do, because now this is a great project. And I know Roberts is very grateful for it. And we're going to have principals lined up saying, me next, me next. So thank you for your leadership on this. It's greatly appreciated.
Yes. Great job.
All right, very good. Thank you very long. Next, recognition. I don't see any on the agenda. That takes us to item number 5 with regard to the report on the reopening of school and updates. Mr. Superintendent? There it comes. All right, thank you.
All right. Here we go. So briefly, I'm going to give you an update and then on some things that have happened this week, and then we'll entertain any questions. First, I want to update you on our numbers for school choice and the choice we've given our parents and our families. As of today, we now have right around 15,000 students who want to return brick and mortar, and just over 15,000 students, about 15,500, who are going to be educated at home, and we will take the classroom to them. So we're at about 49% enrolled in brick and mortar face-to-face, and 51% who are distance learning. And we have a plan for both. We're very excited about the reopening plan, August the 31st. We welcomed our teachers back on Monday. We've had some amazing training. I'm going to let Ms. Gregory and Shane Seifert talk a little bit more about the training. But we've heard lots of good things, lots of excitement about Canvas, about the new content. I think we're building a lot of forward momentum and energy as we move into next week, and then welcoming the students back on the 31st. And to a teacher, they are so very appreciative of having this extra week to plan. We knew this was going to be a big ask for them, a big lift with moving to one-to-one and moving to a common LMS with new content and figuring out digital academy, the hybrid model, how all of this was going to work was going to take a little time. And so us, asking the state for some flexibility, reducing the number of school days and putting that into planning days was of vital importance. So we have our teachers ready on the first day of school. We have a deployment plan for devices that's set up for next week for all 15,000 students that are in our digital academy. We're going to be moving resources around with our school buses the middle of next week, and then getting those devices out to all of our DA students starting towards the end of next week. And then we'll focus on, with our mobile devices, on all of our brick and mortar students. We have a solid plan in place. I can't thank our team enough for all of the hard work and effort. And I have to give a shout out, Justin Williamson. I gave him a Rubik's Cube on Friday, and I said, Justin, figure this out. And the Rubik's Cube was the deployment of nearly 13,000 devices and moving devices and resources around. And on Monday morning, Justin had solved the Rubik's Cube. I mean it. You cannot imagine what a feat this was. And I don't think he slept. Well, I know he didn't. He couldn't have. But we have a solid plan in place to get devices, because we know all of this hinges on devices, right? We have a solid plan in place to get all of our DA kids devices, and then to turn and focus our attention to our brick and mortar students, and to get the vast majority of them that need them mobile devices, so in case they have to shift back and forth because of quarantining or classrooms shutting down or schools potentially shutting down for a short period of time, that they have that mobility and that flexibility. But there was a lot of planning that's going on, and I'm just so so proud of our team for all of their hard work and diligence and efforts, and our school administrators, and now our teachers. And with that, I'm going to ask Ms. Gregory if you and Mr. Seifert would talk a little bit about the training that's happened this week, and we'll kind of go from there.
Good evening, Superintendent, school board members. It's indeed my pleasure to speak with you this evening. I come here to just take a moment to thank publicly the curriculum services and professional learning teams under the leadership of Shane Seifert and with Susan Walden, Jean Pepe, Authority Pickett, as well as our curriculum developers. We have worked tirelessly this week to provide professional learning for teachers. We have had Ms. Denise Williams pivot and become our Canvas expert. She is leading the district in converting our instruction from face-to-face and personal learning to using a platform such as Canvas to ensure that our students get best-in-class access to instructional materials as well as sound pedagogical practices. And then our developers who are subject matter experts like Felicia Williams, Julia Pogozelski, Jessica Titzi, Caitlin Mixon, as well as Knight. Kara Zatoris, they have done an amazing yeoman's job of ensuring that our teachers have access to not just Canvas, but also content aligned to our standards. And so I don't want to steal Mr. Seifert's thunder, but I did want to take a moment of personal privilege and just make sure that we recognize the people behind the scenes. It's the team behind the team. They are doing an amazing job, and we are so eternally grateful for their efforts. With that, under the leadership of Mr. Seifert, if you could share some of the work that's been undertaken with professional learning this week.
Okay, so this week we did our first ever LCS Forward virtual teacher conference. Our superintendent started us off on Tuesday morning with a little over 1,500 teachers online, Zooming for an open presentation and a welcome back to school. And so we have done a virtual conference where we have offered instructional design for innovative learning, for online learning, accommodating students for ESE, 504 ELL, and utilizing the technologies to make sure that we can meet the needs of all students. And saving the best for last, because like she said, Denise Williams has done an amazing job teaching Canvas this week every day, an introduction to Canvas for all of our teachers. And we couldn't have done it without our help from our Florida Association of School Administrators, and they let us borrow their platform, which gave us the ability to push all of this training out through Zoom to all of the teachers in Leon County. So it's the first time we've ever been able to do that. Like I said, over 1,500 teachers on. And yesterday we had over 7,500 hours of teacher training, and that is not finished yet. So that was without everybody turning in all of their points yet. So we are very happy with what the product was, and I know that the teachers were happy about getting the training so that they could help their students through this very different way of teaching.
And we're not done yet. Beginning next week, we'll be pivoting to providing support with the content and how you deliver curriculum online. And so we are in the process of working through both the tools that we have, such as Microsoft Teams and Zoom, but also the expertise that we have in our building to make sure that our teachers have access to deeper training on the content that's being provided, particularly at the elementary level and in certain core content areas in the online, but also as we move into September, providing instructional leadership support and training to our principals and to our assistant principals. And then finally, Mr. Seifert, would be remiss if we didn't mention our parapros and the training that our support staff are also receiving. While they're not back at work yet, when they come back to work, we have actually developed a trainings specific to their job functions to support their work in this new digital environment. So we are again, the leadership of Mr. Seifert and his team has really positioned our district to, we're turning from one way of instruction and we're implementing several tools at once. And it's their leadership that is going to make this as seamless and as seamless as possible.
Well, I thank you, Jillian and Shane. And the feedback I've received has been very positive. Teachers are really excited. And, notwithstanding the pandemic, this was absolutely the right thing to do. This is a game changer for our district for years into the future. I'll be long gone, and the teachers will still have the new content in Canvas and the forward momentum that we're building. But, a plan is only as good as its execution. And so the execution of our plan over the course of the next week and a half before our students here is going to be vital. It's going to be critical to our successful reopening on the 31st. But I have every faith and confidence that that's going to happen. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Kim Banks and Bill Nemmons and Dale Joyner and all the folks that are still working over here at TIS, getting devices prepared, getting the cameras, the dongles, all of the things and the resources that our children are going to need to get them these devices so they'll have access to the content. But I'm, as you can tell, very, very excited about the momentum we're building. August 31st won't get here soon enough. And Jillian also mentioned about parapros and bus drivers, food service workers. All of those employees will come back to work, come back online on Monday as well. So they will have 5 days to work with teachers, to work with administrators, to prepare for the 31st, which is exciting because I'm going to need those drivers and those buses to help move stuff around. Food service workers will be preparing and organizing plans to feed not only the children that are in our brick and mortar schools, but also make accommodations to get resources to our students who are at home in the digital academy. The parapros will be working alongside of their teachers as they plan for the return of students, and then also how they can support students that are at home in the digital academy, how we can potentially support them and work with them. It's going to be a heavy lift, guys. I mean, make no bones about it. We have 15,000 students that are going to return to school and 15,000 students that are going to be at home. It's like running two decent-sized school systems independently, simultaneously. And, I mean, that's quite a challenge, but we are up to the challenge. We are. And I can't wait until the 31st.
Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Jones has a question. Mr. Jones?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Superintendent, with as many as 15,000 students who will be in our digital academies, what is going to be the plan to provide technical assistance to families who will for the first time be navigating technology for the instruction of their children?
Wonderful question. And so we are going to do some YouTube videos. If you want to figure out how to change a tire and you don't know how to change a tire or hook, replace a washer of the plumbing in your sink or something goes wrong, a YouTube video that solves everybody's problems. So we're going to do YouTube videos, and Jillian, I think you want to add to it, but we are going to have training for parents as they get to set up devices. You want to talk a little bit about the Canvas training for parents, Jillian?
So we're super excited. I'm so glad. It's almost like Mr. Jones knew where we were going. We're also proud to announce that on tomorrow, we are actually launching our Parent Academy, which will be all web-based support for parents as they navigate distance learning, Canvas, and the online learning environment. Things that relate everything from motivating my student to technical support. How do I connect this? Where do I go for this? To how to support and put in a help ticket should they have issues. So we're super excited. That's launching tomorrow. It's called Parent Academy. It'll be part of the Digital Academy webpage. It'll be part of our Safe Start web pages and resources. So we'll be able to direct families there as a school community. And then shortly thereafter, we're going to be launching our Student Academy, which is really where students can go to get support. So what we know is that, there's some real traditional methods of support that the superintendent is working towards, outlining some help with the call centers, with the help tickets that students are able to submit online. But also we're going to have some YouTube videos and some how-tos that are going to be part of the repository and catalog that we're going to add to as we go through this process. And so we've got some just getting started things that we're going to launch and then tomorrow, and then we're going to add to it over time. And so we're really excited about that too. And again, that has been under the leadership of Mr. Seifert and his team. They've done an amazing work with that. Ms. Malloy and others.
And then In addition to that, Mr. Jones, the man sitting behind me, Chief Hunkiar is going to help organize a call center for us that can help parents with all kinds of issues. We'll have representatives from TIS, from transportation, food service. So Mr. Hunkiar is going to organize all of those efforts, and we'll prop that call center open starting next week as well.
That call center idea is a very good idea, Mr. Superintendent, because I can imagine that with particularly those who will be working in the digital academy, there will be a number of concerns, particularly when for some families, some working class families, this will be the first time they will have had a full-fledged device like a desktop that in that family setting. I know I've constantly talked about internet access. My concern is, as we, or better yet, I would love to hear more about the deployment plan. For example, taking into consideration where you may have as many as 3 or 4 children going to different schools, maybe high school, middle school, elementary school, all in the same family. Here now, this family will now have 3 desktops. Will we have bandwidth? I mean, beyond the fact whether or not they'll have space, but we understand that, in the words of Michelle Obama, it is what it is. But will they have the bandwidth to be able to sustain 3, 4, or 5, as many as 5 possibly, or more, depending upon the number of students who are enrolled in our public schools from one family, to be able to sustain that?
Right. We've had conversations recently with Mr. Nemmons and Mr. Joyner. We're going to do an internal stress test. I've heard of several school districts in North Georgia didn't survive the stress of what the programs they've been put on or the platforms they were implementing. We feel confident. My team feels confident. Our team feels confident that we are going to be in good shape. But those are some of the unanswered questions, and we're going to work on those issues in the days to come. But we feel like we're positioned in a good place. But let's be clear, there will be issues, there will be challenges, and there will be setbacks. But we are going to be positioned in a much better place on August the 31st than we were last April the 1st. And we learned at the beginning of school last year that we were going to start opening call centers at the start of every school year, just in case we had issues. So along with transportation, food service, technology, and all of those supports, that parents will have a way to reach out to us. So if they are having trouble, that we can get them the help they need and make adjustments for families that need help.
One last observation, Mr. Superintendent. I think that's going to go a long way to helping to mitigate what I know will be parental and family concerns. The fact that they will have a method by which they are able to contact the district, and there'll be persons identified to help them to troubleshoot those issues, is going to go a long way to bring helping parents and families to feel a greater level of comfort, because they know that they have access and there's an open line of communication. And I think that's critical, and I think this is a great idea.
Madam Chair. Ms. Wood? I just wanted to ask the superintendent to follow up on Mr. Jones' question. Talking about internet, do we have an idea of how many people have accessed the Foundation for Leon County Schools to get help with their internet? And are there still funds available if some people maybe haven't been paying as much attention to this as we have and are worried about their internet access? Do we have a helpline for that right now so parents can call if they need help with their internet?
So Eric Clark, the director of Foundation for Leon County Schools, is overseeing that Internet for All program that we have. We've raised significant amount of dollars to help with that fund. The goal is $100,000. I'm going to donate or have a donation from my family for another $10,000 tomorrow to get us to $100,000. But we right now, I think, have helped 40 families so far. The good news is we know by that survey, it wasn't even a survey, we called every individual family, that there was only about 400 to 500 families in total that were without access to the internet, and we are working with them on a case-by-case basis. But we also don't have a crystal ball. We need them to reach out, to call us, to say, hey, school's about to start. I know I'm getting these devices. I don't have the internet. What do I do? So as soon as they call our main number, we get them directly in touch with with Mr. Clark, and he's working with Mr. Figures and Freddie Figures, who with hotspots. We're working with Comcast in the Comcast areas to ensure that those families on the first day of school have connectivity and devices where they can access their classroom.
Great. Any advertising we can do about that seems really important to me.
Yeah,
Is
yes,
there-
I agree.
Are there any updates to provide regarding that deployment plan that you want to share?
Well, like I said, Justin Williams put the Rubik's Cube together, and we're shifting resources from school to school, and then we'll be having families come in to pick up devices to take home. But it was again quite a riddle to solve. And Justin, I think we have a good plan. But again, a plan's only a plan. The end result is how well you execute it, and we'll see how that goes next week. But I feel very confident in the plan we have moving forward, and not just with the DA kids, also with our brick and mortar face-to-face kids. We talked about doing BYOD. I feel very confident we are going to be able to restrict BYOD probably just to the older kids in our school system, just to potentially high school students, and maybe a few of the larger middle schools. We'll have to wait and see how those numbers play out. We're collecting data right now. Homeroom teachers and school administrators are making phone calls to every student in a teacher's homeroom to find out if they have a device they can bring, and then, or if they have a device at home in case they have to go home to quarantine. And we'll be collecting all that information by the end of the day tomorrow. I will then hand Mr. Williamson a second Rubik's Cube to solve over the course of this weekend, which will be the deployment of our mobile devices. We have around 11,000 mobile devices, both at our schools and at the district, and we will shift those around as necessary to give to those brick and mortar face-to-face kids. And then we're going to hold some back in reserve, about 2,000 back in reserve for problems, if people have problems either with desktops or laptops. So we have some in reserve until our devices arrive. We're hopeful they're going to arrive sooner rather than later, but right now I can't worry about that. It is what it is, and it's time for us to move forward, use the best of what we have. And again, getting the devices out to the DA kids the middle and the end of next week. And then with the second Rubik's Cube being solved, issuing our laptop mobile devices for our brick and mortar kids so those kids can access the content while they're in class. And then if they sent home, say they're riding a school bus, someone on the school bus tests positive. Some of the kids, after contact tracing, are told that they have to go home for 2 weeks to quarantine. They have the device. They go home and they get right back in. They shouldn't miss a day. They shouldn't miss a beat. That's the goal in mind, and that's the plan moving forward. In constant communication with the health department and people at the hospital. I talked to Marco Bryant today. We're going to come to an agreement soon for them to help us with rapid testing. But right now, the thing that I'm most concerned about is not the testing. It's the quarantining, because the rules of engagement today, and they seem to change every 3 days or every week. Is if you're exposed to someone that you and it's a high level contact, that you have to quarantine for 2 weeks. That's the thing that really concerns me, is the number of employees that we lose that have to quarantine for an extended period of time, and then we start running short on employees. And but those are problems we'll have to face down the road. The first thing was this week, get our teachers going again, get them the training they need. Next week, bring back our support staff, our paras, our bus drivers, our food service workers, get the devices issued to our DA kids, and then develop a plan to issue the devices to our brick and mortar kids with all of the safety precautions we have about their arrival to campus, about the social distancing, about the food distribution, and all of those other things that we have been preparing for all summer long. I can't wait for August the 31st. It seems like we've been planning for August the 31st for the last 5 years.
For a long time.
So I'm excited.
Madam Chair, I have a couple of questions. Thank you. Mr. Superintendent, it appears that our plan is coming together, and I love it when a plan comes together. Thank you for your hard work and the energy of yourself and your staff. But I do have a couple of quick questions. I'm not sure that I heard how you were going to address those families where there would be more than one child in the household who would need a device. And I'm assuming that, well, I need not assume, but I'd like to know how you're planning to handle that. And certainly they would not all have desktops because that can be a little cumbersome in some of the homes. And Mr. Jones has already asked about bandwidth and that kind of thing. So that's my first question. And my second question is, if parents are going to be coming tomorrow, could we know the number of parents that have agreed to take part of this, participate in this training? And the third question is, you mentioned the stress test. What does the stress test, probably not, include a routing throughout our campus, our site, to see where those troubled spots would be, where there might be not as much, juice to bandwidth or to take care of what the needs would be for those children and in those areas where there is low connectivity. So could you speak to those three things, please?
Well, to the first point, Ms. Bowen, in order to make the numbers work, our DA students, the vast majority of our DA students will be receiving desktops. That's the only way we can make the math work. Otherwise, our students in brick and mortar schools would be left without. We would have no way to communicate with them, no way to connect with them. We're just going to have to suck it up and do the best we can. As far as the internet service in different parts of the county, we know where the trouble areas are. We've been trying to work with T-Mobile and with Mr. Figures on addressing those hotspot areas and those dead zones to ensure that we get people connected. But, with 33,000 students and 15,000 of them at home, there are going to be issues and problems for us to solve. And we just have to go at them one at a time. What we're trying to do is get as far ahead as we can on the front end to reduce the number of problems we have on the back end. But there will be issues. But, with this hotline that we're going to set up, along with the tutorials that Ms. Gregory is setting up for parents starting tomorrow for them to log into, I think the training opportunities are there. But we also know that a number of our families, the first day of school, they show up and want to register for school. I don't know where they've been, but they haven't been paying attention, and they're going to show up. That's going to happen. I guarantee you. And we have to be prepared to get those students the learning devices they need, to train their parents as quickly as possible, and to get them caught up or up to speed, as you would say, to get them positioned in a place so they don't miss out on any learning during those first several weeks of the school year. But also remember, those first couple of days, we talked to our school administrators on taking a deep breath, making sure all of our students were in a good place emotionally before any learning can take place. We haven't seen them in over 5 months now. They've experienced a lot, and not just with COVID. We've had these conversations. So the first order of business to both our students in our schools and the students at home is, how are you? It's a wellness check. And for us to have discussions, and before we dig into solving algebraic equations and having labs and biology class, that we need to check on how our children are doing, and then also reinforce the expectations. I'm going to do a video for students next week to talk about math, to talk about being responsible students, about social and civic responsibility, and about the expectations. And those expectations are going to be reinforced on the first day of school when they arrive on our campuses by their teachers. This is what we expect. These are the behaviors we need. Now is not a time, as Mr. Jones would say, for tomfoolery. This is the time for us to get to the business of doing what we do best, and that's teachers teaching and students learning. So, again, I'm excited about the opening. There are issues, and our principals, they shook their head when we talked about issuing desktops. I know, I don't want to have to do that either, but it's the only way I could get the math to work, and to make sure that all of our brick and mortar face-to-face kids who also need a device, because they have that content on Canvas, in order to get to it, they have to have a device, and it allows for them to be fluid, so in case they have to quarantine, or again, we shut a class down, that it can be a somewhat seamless process. In a perfect world, I wish we had our 32,500 devices, but we don't, and we're making the best of it.
All right, good.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Wood.
sort of tangential to that discussion, first, I would just want to congratulate the superintendent and staff for incredible, 24/7 work since graduation. I know most of you haven't even had weekends, and I hope that and the principals, everybody's just been working so hard, and I know they are working really hard to have a good opening. I hope that parents and students will give everybody a little grace on the front end, because you say, we know technology. Technology doesn't always work, and there are going to be glitches. My one thought, and I know that principals have already got their sort of what they're going to do the first week lined up, but today, just studying a little bit of the CDC guidelines, one thing that we've talked about masks, we've talked about social distancing, we've talked about hand sanitizing, we've talked about all those really important things. One thing we haven't talked much about is cohorts. And the CDC really recommends that students, as much as possible, stay in the same group and don't move around much. And I think in elementary, that's much more achievable. In secondary, it's harder. But I would just like to challenge my secondary friends to really think about homerooms, extended homerooms, while students are learning Canvas and learning the rules, so that there's minimal traffic the first couple of days of school. Because those couple first days when everybody's seeing their friends and hugging everybody, and those are going to be, I think, our most dangerous days in terms of COVID spread. And the more students they interact with, the more adults they interact with, the more quarantining we're going to have to do. So I just sort of want to put that out as a challenge for our secondary schools, especially, to think about how could they keep their students in smaller cohorts for more extended times than necessarily going to all 6 classes the first 2 days of school. So I'll leave that with the expertise of the administrators, but I just wanted to put that thought out there, because if we look at Martin County, and I looked it up today, they've been in school 1 week. They've had 292 students quarantined and 14 teachers in 5 different schools. So, I think we can see the writing on the wall, and it's particularly concerning at secondary school. So, just wanted to say that, and I have one other thought to add, but I'll wait till.
Well, I can, if I can remind you, about a month and a half ago, I made the decision to move secondary to block scheduling just for that reason, and it was met with some resistance, but I felt like it was the prudent thing to do, to reduce the number of transitions, so kids will only go to 3 classes a day instead of 6. So transitions, instead of 5 transitions a day, there's only 2. And it reduces the amount of contact, teacher-student contact, by 50%. It also reduces the student-to-student contact by 50% on any given day. So, and we know in our elementary schools that the teachers will be moving, the students won't be moving. So I think we've done as much as we possibly could to keep kids contained and to prepare them for the first day. And I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of hugging going on in the halls. I may be wrong. I think everyone understands the seriousness of this moment, I hope, by now. And if they don't, they're going to hear it from me next week, and they're going to be reinforced on the first day of school. With that, I know Mr. Jones. I'll tell you what. Why don't you ask your follow-up question, Ms. Wood, and then I want to address something Mr. Jones mentioned last week.
No, I'll wait. Thank you.
Mr. Jones asked last week about athletics, and that's been a big question and something that's been on our mind. The FHSAA has been kind of all over the place about high school athletics and what to do with our high school student athletes. They said we could open up practice on the 24th, which would be on Monday. I am not in favor of us opening up for athletics on the 24th. So I've made the decision, along with our team, that athletics, if everything goes as planned, that we will start our fall athletic season on Friday, September the 11th. Our priorities, like my father used to tell me, Rocky, school is first. If you don't have C's or better, you can forget it. You won't be playing any sport. You'll be a playground All-American. right? So the first goal, the first order of business is school, is getting our kids back in school, getting them acclimated again, getting our academic courses running. And then after 2 weeks of successfully running our academic programs, then we can slowly introduce athletics. I think it sends the wrong message. And this is coming from someone that sports was a very important part of what I did in high school, that it sends the wrong message for us to start training for athletic purposes before we get in our academic classrooms. And that right now is job one. That's goal one. If everything goes as smooth as possible, we develop schedules beginning on September 11th. The seasons will be reduced a little bit, but as of right now, those kids will have an opportunity to participate. With middle school athletics, we flip seasons. So football and volleyball, those sports where there's not a lot of social distancing, we flipped into the spring. With softball and some of the sports that cross country and track where they're spread out a little more, we move to the fall. We can do that locally. That can be a decision of ours. But with high school athletics, if our teams wanted to compete for a state championship, we did not have that luxury of making that decision. I introduced the idea of maybe flipping football to the spring. It fell on deaf ears. They decided not to do it. I don't know how optimistic I am about us actually playing a sport that defies everything about social distancing. But we'll see. But right now, goal one is to finish preparing our teachers next week, our support staff next week, and get back to the business of teachers teaching and students learning on Monday, August the 31st.
Madam Chair? Thank you. Mrs. Superintendent, does that include the, I'm calling them sports clubs, the cheering squads and such? Where are you with the decision about when they will, I guess, be on the field or not be on the field? And I guess I'm assuming, and I shouldn't, that there will not be fans in the stadium at the games. What's your decision about that, please?
So, the same, cheerleading is a sport. Let's be clear, right? My sister would beat me with a stick if I told her cheerleading is a sport. They will also start on that same date, September the 11th. As far as fans are concerned, it is my hope and goal that at the very least, that the student athletes' parents can watch their children participate. And so our principals and athletic directors, led by the guidance of Mr. Bell, Mr. Hanson, are working on a plan for fans in the stands. So I don't want to speak out of turn, which I have a poor habit of doing from time to time. So, but yes, those are all considerations they're going to make in the days and the weeks to come.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I had a question, but now I'm eating chocolate, so let's go to
I missed the chocolate.
Ms. Williams, do you have persons to be heard?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Before the superintendent finishes, I do have just a couple more questions regarding the reopening of schools.
Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I know I have mentioned this once before. Is there any intention that we would have like a COVID frequently asked question handout or something that we will be giving to parents, students, faculty, such that we are able to provide that type of uniformity in terms of responsibilities, and expectations associated with COVID? For example, I have received several phone calls from teachers from across our district who have complained to me about what has been the inconsistency in mask wearing, particularly as it relates to wearing masks in hallways, in common areas where we already know that our breath is aerosolized, and that aerosolizing of our breath means that persons who are also unmasked run the risk of walking into that aerosol moments later. So if two persons are not consistently wearing masks, I'm talking about faculty and staff during the day, one, before the students come, we set ourselves up to model bad behaviors for our children, but yet at the same time, if we do not enforce this consistently such that everyone knows that this is a district-wide response, we run the risk of possible infection. And so I just want to know, how are we using every method and manner to also talk about what is the response on when persons are infected, and whatever those protocols are consistently beyond which I just want to know, are we making certain that everyone is aware across all the expanse of our constituencies, students, parents, faculty, staff, administrators, are we doing that? And then is there any expectation or responses to failure to comply? I know that was a mouthful, but I hope you got it all.
Well, I think we've done an outstanding job of communicating. I don't know what else we can do. Kudos to Dr. Gale, Heather Thomas, Chris Petley, Denver Lee, all the folks that have built that. If you've looked at our website, it's everything a parent could want, a student could want to know, and more. And we've hammered the message again and again and again. So if they aren't hearing, they aren't listening. And we will continue, though, to your point, to talk about our mask policies, what the expectations are, what the protocols are, and if you fail to abide by those, whether you are an employee or whether you are a student, these are the consequences of your actions. So we'll continue to have those conversations, but I don't know where there should not, at this point, in my mind, be any confusion about transitions, hallways, buses, classrooms. The only with our employees, I sent a letter out that you got some feedback, some constructive criticism about employees and staying 6 feet apart from each other and ensuring they had masks on, because again, the thing that's going to cripple us the fastest is having to send numerous employees home to quarantine, and the adults have to stay away from each other, period. And I've said that again and again and again, and I would really hope they would do it also in their personal life. But I can't control what happens when they leave our property, but we can certainly have a say of what happens or doesn't happen while they're on our property. But again, I refrain from going to restaurants and sitting in close proximity to people, and I'm asking our people to do the same, because let's face it, the state or the federal government or others may not realize or may not deem us or recognize us as essential workers, but we are essential. There is nothing more essential than a public school teacher. So not only in their professional life, but in their personal life, that's a responsibility. That's on them. And all I can do is plead to them to say, look, guys, I want to go back out to Outback and have a moment, but if right now we just, I don't want to, now I'm going to upset the Outback people because I took away their business, but we just have to stay away from each other, because of what's killing us is all the quarantining. So act in a professional and responsible manner. And to your point, it's leading by example. And our students are going to see, hey, this is serious. This isn't something we're playing around. And I think they get it, and those that don't, they will get it quickly or they will get gone, as Mr. Plaw used to say.
Well, may I add this one last thing, Mr. Superintendent? I don't want to wax long on this. I would like to acknowledge what I think have been the fantastic communications with our public about what all this district is doing to ensure safety in our classroom and in our workspaces. I think those compelling examples, those visuals of all the hard work that is going to prepare us for the start of school, I'm certain has done its job to communicate the great effort and the great expense that the district has undertaken to ensure student and faculty and staff safety. So kudos to the staff for those.
And I appreciate it, Mr. Jones. And I would simply ask, if you have teachers or other employees that are reaching out to you, redirect them back to their site administrator and principal. I mean, even as a former principal, out of respect, I would simply ask, let me try to solve the problems in my house. And if I can't solve them within my house, and Rosanna is exactly what I'm talking about, then by all means, go see Dr. Henderson, go see the superintendent, take the next steps, but at least give our site administrators a chance to solve these problems.
Mr. Superintendent.
Madam Chair.
I want to say this very gently. I completely understand what you just said. And I want to hasten to commend our staff for the Herculean effort. I mean, if you think about everything we've just talked about in the last 20 minutes, we have gone from brick and mortar delivery to a hybrid model of duplicative digital and brick and mortar, and providing devices and providing hotspots and figuring out a new platform called Canvas and providing all the new pedagogies. I mean, what you and your staff have accomplished since March has been extraordinary. But I want to just remind you of something you said, which is, believe it or not, on August 31st, we're going to have families and they're going to show up, and we've been eating and living and breathing this 24/7 since March. At least that's how I feel. I mean, and yet we're throwing out terms like BYOD, DA. We know what that means. And so do the 5,000 people who've been watching us every single week. But there are still going to be those people that don't know what we're talking about. And there are still going to be with the advent of social media, now what you have is teachers comparing the practices of one school over another. So you say, go to their school administrator. But what they're coming to us with is, well, my principal is making me do this, but I know that principal over there isn't doing it that way. And, that kind of thing. So I'm just saying, maybe a focus group of people who haven't been watching any of these meetings at all. Maybe God love them. They've been off on a vacation for the summer. Their kid was getting married. They've been focused on their own crisis or beautiful thing. Maybe because we're so knee deep in it, or up to our underwater in it, maybe just a fresh set of eyes to think about what those frequently asked questions ought to be, and where that, but again, this is not in any way meant to be a criticism, because I think the flow charts we've come up with, the guidance of the hospital partnerships we have, the health department, the CDC, all the things we've done, I don't know how anybody who's been paying even half a minute of attention could be critical. I understand that nothing's perfect. Nobody is, but these are uncharted waters, and we're doing the very best we can. And so I'm the first one to try to defend you and your team. However, I would just remind you that as much as we think we are being communicative, there are people out there who have not been paying attention, and they won't until August 30th. So whatever we can do to try to, and maybe, public service announcements, maybe, frequently, maybe a word search under the frequently asked questions. If I'm looking for something on mask, maybe I'm able to type in, can I type in mask? I don't know. Maybe that may be possible. I don't know. But whatever we can do but again, this is by no means a criticism. I think the marketing team, the academic services team, the people who've been helping with Canvas and helping us transition and helping put Rubik's Cubes together and all the things we talked about tonight are doing a really remarkable job. And I am honored to be part of the team. But I just would respectfully remind us that because we have been communicating 24/7 for 6 months doesn't mean that everybody has caught every word. So maybe an outside, a focus group of people who have been busy doing things like, normal people. I don't know. That doesn't include us. That's all.
Well, and I agree. And we certainly understand, especially those of us that have been school administrators, those people are going to come the first day of school, that they have not been paid. They've been living their life. They've been surviving the pandemic. They've been working day and night to try to provide for their family, or heaven forbid, collecting unemployment and trying to earn money where they can. And they just haven't been paying attention, but no fault of theirs, because they just have been trying to survive. Right? And then school sneaks up on them and they go, oh my gosh, now I got to get my child back in school. So we will have plans for those parents. We know they're out there. And I'm not saying they're, by any stretch of the imagination, they are not neglectful parents. They're just trying to survive. It's like Maslow's needs. Right now they're just trying to pay the light bill and get food on the table. And then, school will happen. And so we will certainly have plans in place to accommodate them. All I would ask you all, I don't know if you ever did this, but from time to time, I used to play my mom against my dad. My dad was always the no person, and my mom was the more liberal
He
yes
still is.
person. And so I just don't want us to be mom and dad. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
And just to add to what you said, there are working parents, there are struggling parents, there are separated parents, there are multiple households involved. There are also parents who are, where one is a first responder, one of them is a police officer, a nurse, a doctor, and they're up to here too. Or somebody just moved to town, or anyway, the point is, let's try for a minute to put ourselves in as many different types of shoes as we can to figure out where we think we are communicating at and I believe we are communicating at a heightened degree.
I do too.
But
Madam Chair.
there
Madam
may
Chair, I
be-
believe we do have people in the audience that are waiting to speak in person. I just wanted to note you guys, because I know you can't see them. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Thank you. I'm ready to move on if you are. Ms. Bowen, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, I do, very quickly, and perhaps I can add it again at another point in this on this agenda. But speaking of those parents who have been with us on Zoom since March, I have some concerns about those parents who have not been able to use Zoom. I don't have those skills, knowledge, and abilities to get Zoom. Those members of the community who've been around forever supporting us, and they are without the Zoom devices, as it were. And so at a more appropriate time, I'd like to know if there is a plan for us to perhaps have our school board meetings televised again. I know this is probably not in the best spot, but there are many of our constituents who cannot see us. They don't know what we're doing. Those parents who are dealing with us now, yes, they do. So as another item, perhaps I'd like to have some information about that. And if we can't do it and afford it, perhaps Florida State University with the WFSU TV station or a student project, we can get back to that. So I want to know what you think about it, but not now. So later on. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very good, Ms. Bowen. We'll put a pin in that, as Mr. Superintendent would say, and make sure that we follow up and follow through. I think.
Thank you.
Ms. Strickland, your point is well taken, and because I'm not there, I don't see the audience, but I do know it's time on the agenda to go to persons to be heard. So Ms. McKinney-Williams, if you could make your statement about who will be read into the record and who is physically present to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The district has received 59 emails to the persons to be heard at leonschools.net email address. Those emails were sent to board members for review. They have been attached to item 6.01 of this agenda, and they will be attached to the minutes of this meeting once they are prepared. Here in the board meeting room, we have two speakers to be heard. The first speaker is Mr. Max Epstein. If you could please come to the podium, give us your full name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
Hi, Max Epstein, 1001 San Luis Court. I'm here to talk about accommodations. At the last board meeting, you were looking at all these accommodations, and actually, let me start over here. If you just listen to this meeting right now, you'd think everything's hunky-dory. You would think that going to schools, teachers are excited to go back, principals. Your own surveys show that 70% of the teachers are scared to return or do not want to return. My girlfriend, my partner, submitted an ADA exemption. She's heard nothing. No emails, no calls, no nothing. I've also heard that ADA exemptions are not being granted to people who want to teach virtual only. I have a lot of friends here that have taught for decades in the school system. They're getting ready to retire, and they're being forced to go back to work. People that are very high risk. We should be protecting our teachers. We have a county commissioner who's a principal who was on CNN who said it's not safe to go back to schools. They lost 3 people at that school. And I actually forgot to give my homework last time I was here. I'd like you to choose 3 people at each school that you are willing to sacrifice, because we know that people are going to get infected. We know that people are going to take this home to their families. They're going to get sick, and some will die. There are a lot of things we can do. We can reduce from 50% down to 30%. Kids in school, maybe the 30% of teachers that want to go back can then teach in person. That would make a lot of sense. And why do the board members get to zoom in on this meeting when you're not accommodating your employees and your teachers? I'd like to see everyone sitting 3 feet apart at the board meeting on Tuesday. And let's fill this room with just as many people as they're going to be in these classrooms. I'm sorry that I have to speak so passionate about this thing, but you are really going to hurt people by doing this. I want to see you getting these lawyers out, like Hillsborough County, like Miami-Dade. Go after the state. Get your funding. And I also want to know what are the consequences for staff who take their masks off. I watched all the way through. When I left, 2 of the board members took off their masks as soon as the cameras were off, started talking to each other. So what is the punishment? What happens then? So you really need to listen to your people. You need to get people teaching online. This hybrid model is such a stress on people. You got 20 kids in your classroom. How are you supposed to have quality education? Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
And thanks for letting me wait outside this time.
Next speaker, the second and last speaker, is Hannah Kuros. Forgive me if I butchered that name. Please come and give us your full name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Hannah Kuros, and I live at 3488 Colonnade Drive. I currently attend Harvard University, where I have conducted research at Harvard Medical School for the past 2 years. I graduated from Rickards High School in 2018, and I attended Leon County Schools K-12. I'm here today because I'm scared, and because Leon County Schools is pursuing a dangerous and likely deadly reopening plan. My stepdad is a Leon County teacher, and I'm so scared you are sending him to his death. He's putting on a tough face, but he also made sure to get life insurance as a part of his back-to-school plan, just in case. Teachers are rightly terrified. They are protesting. The Florida School Board is suing, but their concerns have not been respected. The in-person reopening plan in place ignores facts and logic. The current reopening plan falls under the CDC's highest COVID risk category because Leon County Schools is not limiting class sizes and isn't spacing people 6 feet apart at all times. Our classrooms are too small for that, so you gave up on adhering to this crucial standard. If a Leon County Schools employee has COVID, the listed follow-up procedure is to ask them if they've been within 6 feet of anyone at school for over 15 minutes in the past 3 days. Only the people they've had this level of contact with will be notified if they test positive. This plan is perfect because we all know that COVID is a polite virus that waits 15 minutes to jump from person to person. It makes no sense. It only takes seconds for the air someone with COVID breathes out to be breathed in by someone else who may then become infected. We are expecting children as young as 5 years old to socially distance when we let them out onto the playground. They won't because they're kids and it's not their fault. What's even more horrifying is that there's no plan to social distance on school buses because it is physically impossible to, given the number of buses we have available. Instead, we're accepting deadly risk. We are expecting kids as young as 5 to keep their masks on for an entire bus ride, sitting right next to each other. The bus driver won't be able to look back and enforce mask wearing. Their eyes are on the road. Kids will be kids. They'll talk to friends they haven't seen in months, let their masks slip down, take seconds to breathe, and the virus will spread in these close quarters. Research has shown that nearly 80% of COVID patients aged 10 to 19, middle and high school age kids are asymptomatic, meaning that these cases won't be caught by temperature checks. The current plan sends kids with COVID symptoms home even if they're wearing a mask because we know that the virus can still spread when masks are worn. So it is very likely that we end up in a scenario like nearly every other school across the country that's reopened, where the virus spreads silently through our schools undetected by temperature checks, infecting our custodians, cafeteria workers, our students, our teachers, and their families. People will get sick, and like so many other schools, will have to shut down and move to all online instruction. COVID-19 spread in Tallahassee isn't under control. We're a hotspot with over 5,600 cases, with 15 to 24-year-olds being the demographic with the highest number of infections. We've had school board meetings start with a moment of silence to recognize the Leon County school members of the community that have been killed. And a child's high school coach has already caught COVID on school grounds. Your response has been to allow teachers who are terrified of dying to show up to school in scrubs. Our schools aren't hospitals. We can't adhere to the public health standards we need to.
Time. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that is it for public comment.
Thank you, and thank you both for being here. As Ms. Williams mentioned, the other comments submitted for persons to be heard will be attached to the minutes, and they've all been provided in writing to every school board member. So that takes us to the consent agenda items 7 through 18. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Okay, I think Ms. Bowen is trying, so I'm going to take a motion to approve by Ms. Strickland, second by Ms. Bowen.
Madam Chair.
All in favor?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make clear, you said 7 to 18? Do you mean 7 to 17? Are we doing 18 separate?
We probably should, but it does not. Anyway, let's take the first consent agenda, which is items 7 through 17. Motion to approve by Ms. Strickland, second by Ms. Bowen. Any objection?
No.
Hearing no objection, show that unanimously approved. That takes us to the consent agenda for item 18. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Second by Ms. Bowen. Any objection? Hearing none, the item is unanimously approved. That takes us to consideration agenda item 19.01. And I think Mr. Albritton is walking to the podium.
He is, Madam Chair.
Good evening, Board, Chair, Superintendent. Tonight I would like to introduce some of the team that's here in the room tonight from Hoy Stark Hagen Architect Firm. We have Erica Hagen and Monty Stark. From Allstate Construction, we have Andrew Wellman. Item 1901, Superintendent recommends approval for Allstate Construction, Inc., guaranteed maximum price GMP, contracted for Phase 5 for construction manager at risk for RFQ 427, 2018, construction manager at risk for Rickards High School demolition, site work, utilities, elevator, canopies, and new construction. The GMP price is $5,350,595.
Move approval.
Motion by Ms. Strickland, second. Second by Ms. Wood. Any objection? None. Hearing none, show it approved on a vote of 4-0 with one abstention. Although I don't think it's necessary, but in abundance of caution, I will abstain in light of my employment with Associated Builders and Contractors and the fact that these folks are members of our broader association. That takes us to item.
If I may, Madam Chair, if I may, very, very quickly before we move on to the next item, I also would like to thank the folks from Hoy Stark and Allstate Construction Company for being with us tonight. This is exciting. This is the final phase 5 of the project at James S. Rickards High School. I do want to show you a picture and make a brief announcement. As part of this project over the last year or so, and having worked for a number of years on the board with Miss Maggie Lewis Butler, who was a champion of our school system for decades and started her career as a science teacher here with Leon County Schools. And one of the buildings that we are completely renovating is Building 19. Those renovations are ongoing or just have actually finished up as teachers return. But the recommendation I'm going to make to the School Advisory Council at James S. Rickards High School, I had a conversation with Mr. Cook today, Principal Cook today, and then hopefully bring to you all as a board, is that we announced the naming of Building 19 as the Maggie Lewis Butler Science Wing. I think it is very appropriate given all this wonderful lady did in support of schools, the Rickards community and the Fairview community and so many others, that this would be an appropriate way to recognize and honor someone that gave so much to our public school system. I remember hearing for years how she said Rickards was constructed very hastily during a time of integration, and how it was time to quit putting a Band-Aid on Rickards High School and do a significant project and significant work that would carry on in that community. And that's what those children in those communities deserve. And now they're going to get it. And with this final phase, and the thank you to the good folks at Hoy Stark and at Allstate Construction, they are making this dream for those students and those communities become a reality. And Miss Lewis Butler was a big part of it. So her comments certainly did not fall on deaf ears for me or for you as board members. And so I think it'll be a very proud and fitting moment next summer, this time next year, hopefully, that we finish the final phase in the courtyard, that we are able to name this building the Maggie Lewis Butler Science Wing.
What a wonderful honor. Wonderful honor.
Thank
for such a
Actually,
beautiful building.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Ms. Bowen,
Actually,
one thing I'd like to say about this. Go ahead, Ms.
okay, I was going to say very quickly what Miss Lewis Butler used to say was that Rickards was built with substandard material, and she emphasized that. So just need to put that out there for our former colleague. Go ahead. Thank you, ma'am.
She also always had to point out that science was her first love.
That's right.
She'd been a science teacher for many, many years. And
yes, thank you.
Selfishly, I would ask Mr. Superintendent, when you bring this back, would you please do it in a fashion that does not involve any contractor at all? I want the naming of this building to be separate and apart from the vote that would create the possibility that I would need to abstain, because I want to lend my full and loving support of this item. And let me be clear on this point again for the 500th time. I am not unable to participate in votes related to construction. The only time I need to make an abstention is in the abundance of caution in the event that the contractor involved might be a member of my association. And so if you would please do me the courtesy, Mr. Superintendent, of bringing this item back separate and apart from any construction contract or any contractor's involvement, so that I could have the opportunity to vote in support of this item. Thank you.
Well, Madam Chair, I mean, I love the folks at Hoy Stark and at Allstate Construction, but I am very hopeful this will be the last round of contracts for James S. Rickards High School. That if we've been working on this project, as you know, for a number of years, and this is really bringing it to a finality and putting the cherry on top with the courtyard. We've knocked down 6 of the 7, as Miss Lewis Butler would say, dilapidated buildings on that campus. The 7th one is going to come down either over the winter holidays or shortly thereafter, and then we're going to go into that beautiful courtyard area. You won't believe it when you see it. I mean, you can. Right now, I go out there just about every week to look at that project and the project at Fairview Middle School, and this is making good on a promise that all of us made to the folks in those communities, and I'm very proud of it. And Miss Lewis Butler was a big part of it, so we will absolutely bring it as a separate item.
Thank you, sir.
Dog seconds. All right, where are we next?
Okay, so that, I believe that, sorry, I know you can hear my dogs barking in the background. I'm trying to, Mr. Jones, did you have something?
No, ma'am. I'm just very, very happy that the superintendent has come back with this recommendation. You'll recall that it was more than nearly a year ago that I made the recommendation that we would find a way that the staff would come back with a recommendation whereby we might honor the legacy of my predecessor, who held the distinguished record of having been the longest serving school board member in our district. And so I'm glad to hear this recommendation come back to us, and I look forward to us ultimately voting for its passage. And thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
You don't have to thank me. It's absolutely the right thing to do.
All right, moving right along, we've finished both consent agendas, items 7 through 17, and then item 18, and the consideration of agenda item number 0.01. That takes us to item 19.02. Mr. Superintendent.
Madam Chair, yes, if I may, this item was moved off of the last meeting and put into consideration at the request of Ms. Striplin. I'm going to ask, I have Director Bell on this call, if she can review the item, and then also Ms. Kale, our Director of Purchasing. We talked a little bit about it last week, but I'd like for Ms. Bell just to give a synopsis. And she also sent you all some information, I believe. So, Ms. Bell, if you would.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. We sent out some information today to kind of give a historical view of our work with the 223 agency and App Innovators and AI Media, which are all under the same umbrella. We are currently only working with the 223 agency. Back when we started when I started here in 2017, 2018, we began using one of their companies for the website only. And that was middle of the year back in November. And it was to do a total overhaul of rebranding the school. And that started with what we felt was our biggest advertising tool, which is our website. And so we started with them then, and then we started picking up some media buys using AI media. And then fast forward to last year in 2019, 2020, we did a PTSA that came in front of the board and was approved under the only 223 agency. That's their only company that we used last year. And with that, some of the things that we do with the 223 agency includes keeping and hosting our website, social media marketing, brand awareness, graphic design, our online reputation management, our Google ad campaign, advertising, retargeting ads, our media buys, video production, including our online graduation that we did last year as well. And so last year we were up on the dollars that we spent with them, and that was purposeful when we started last year with specifically targeting some video production that we wanted them to do as part of our overall media campaign. And so I included that in the overview I sent you, where we worked with 8 specific programs: welding, HVAC, LPN, medical assisting, automotive, aviation, and patient care technician, to design specific videos to help with our overall advertising and media plan. And those go out online. We also do some media buys for some traditional advertising. And so the 223 agency that we work with does everything for us. And it's part of our overall, like I said, advertising and media plan. We also added last year under LPIP, and if you remember, we brought this grant to you. It stands for the Lively Paratransit Instructional Program. This is through the Florida Department of Transportation. It's a grant that we provide paratransit training, and those are anything shorter than 18 passenger vehicles. So from across the state, people come to Lively to receive that training. So we added on $2,900 last year to the 223 agency for the development of their website and advertising materials. So this year, when we went with the 223 agency, we did a PTSA for those services that I've mentioned, and it was approved not to exceed $64,000. And then we added on, and we were going to do a separate PTSA for LPIP, but since it's under the same 223 agency, in dealing with purchasing, it was recommended that we just do an amendment. And so that's $6,600 for the LPIP grant to add on services. Again, that's coming from that grant with the Department of Transportation. And that is because of the movement for LPIP because of COVID to create their online training and a subsequent online statewide association for Florida paratransit technicians. And so that was why we brought in that additional $6,600. And so that is out of that grant. So I think the detailed report that I prepared for you kind of gives you an overview of where we started back in 2017, 2018, and where we are today in working with the 223 agency.
How's the enrollment going?
Our enrollment is up. We are up today, more students than we had last year. As a matter of fact, we had to close down our welding after we topped 173 students, I think, in welding, and as of this morning, 91 alone in cosmetology. So where other technical colleges across the state are seeing numbers go down, ours are going up, and we're really excited. We're working to prepare a kind of overview of where we were last year, the last 3 years, to give some historical data later in September. But we're really excited with how our media and advertising campaign has gone, because it's produced students walking through our doors. So we're really excited.
Other questions?
Yes, one quick question. Shelley, what would you attribute the increase, or why are we doing so well right now? I don't know how to put it, but I'm certain you have some thoughts about it.
We did a lot of media. I mean, to be honest, we had radio going. We had things going about how important our programs are. We gave some scholarships for students in the healthcare fields with some a grant that we got from the Department of Education for rapid credentialing. Our healthcare, we've seen those go up. We also are able to pay for some of their industry certifications. We've done a lot on social media. If you go to what we've put out on Facebook and the graphic designs from the 223 agency, and a lot of retargeting ads. So anytime anyone comes to our website, then as they continue to browse the web, they'll see the lively ads, on the sidebar. Now, done a lot of different things. We've had radio ads out there, and we did a mailer right after what would have been the traditional graduation, the end of May, beginning of June, to I think it was 7,000 households in the Tri-County area with students between the ages of 18 and 22 to specifically have them come in and register. And so we've been watching our numbers for the last month, anticipating, like we'd heard from other technical colleges, that our enrollment might be down. And to our surprise, it's up. We've actually had to hire another welding instructor, a couple more healthcare instructors, and pretty soon we'll be bringing to you an announcement that we have with Gulf Triumph and Wakulla County to the tune of $3.5 million to expand what we've got going on out at the airport with our aviation program.
Ms. Bell, excuse me for interrupting. I'm sorry, I was going to call on Mr. Jones. Ms. Bowen, were you finished, though? I apologize.
Yes, I think so for right now.
Okay, Mr. Jones?
I'm done.
Yes, although much of our conversation has gone from the original item, but while we have our director of our lively vocational technical college here with us, I would be remiss if I did not mention that just today, Miss Bell and I and people from across our community participated in our local Greater Tallahassee Chamber's Talent Forum. The focus of the Talent Forum was the enormous opportunity for our business community to be engaged with all of our schools, much like the conversation that we just had a week ago when I brought it up about the 32304 task force. What was acknowledged in that conversation is that how fortunate our community is to have the resource of Lively Vocational Technical College to meet what we know are the continuing and burgeoning needs of our business community, and enabling and equipping a talented workforce. And Lively Vocational Technical College is an important part of that. And I'm looking forward to what is already, from when we first brought this subject up last week. Since that time, the Chamber has reached out to us. There will be, in the very near future, be agenda to come and talk with us about their 2020 Talent Forum, the Talent Hub concept that they have, which is being made possible through an integral and collaborative relationship between our Lively Vocational Technical College. It is going to be a legacy project, and I'm just very, very excited about Ms. Bell and the work that they are doing at Lively Vocational Technical College to stimulate job creation in our community.
Okay. Great. All right, very good. Is there anyone else?
Kudos, Shelley.
Any questions or concerns on this item?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Wood, second by Mr. Jones. Any objection?
Yes, I object. It's in direct conflict with policy 6320. I'm sure they do great work, but I feel this item should have been put out to bid. This no surprise. We talked about this last week. So I hope to see that happen next year.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. No objection other than Ms. Strickland. Without further comment or objection, show it approved on a vote of 4-1. Dr. Cox, I see you've joined us. Does that mean you're up?
I'm up next.
Carry on, sir.
Okay, so this is a contract between Leon County Department of Health and Leon County Schools, and it is not the contract. You know, I come to y'all usually about mid-June, late June with the, because we contract with Leon County Department of Health to run health services. It is a sizable contract. This one is specifically about the monitors, the health monitors. I brought this to you about a month and a half ago that we were writing a grant in conjunction with the Department of Health, and we got it. And so through them now we're going to be funding health assistants, health monitors, specifically for COVID, for every school site. And that's what this is. It's about $219,751, which is just enough money to cover these folks. We've given the principals permission to advertise, but upon your approval tonight, they can hire them. And then this is a reimbursement contract, so we'll simply bill the health department to get these dollars monthly. That's what it is.
Thank you, Dr. Cox. Any questions?
Would you briefly, Madam Chair, it's right here, would you just briefly say, and perhaps you did, and I was looking at the item, to say what these monitors are going to be doing at our schools? I'm sure, just remind us.
Okay, universally, it has been, universally, I mean, a lot of places are doing these, what we call COVID-19 classrooms, okay? So remember, we're preventive as much as we possibly can be. So we're doing daily health screenings of our students, right?
Right.
And if they're recognized, they meet the criteria, then we need to have them a place to go, and that's what we call the class 19 or the COVID class, for them to get a second assessment, and that's what these folks will be doing, and then seeing if their parents need to come pick them up. So that's not the only activity, but that's the main focus of what these folks will be doing.
All right. Thank you, sir.
And so one of the things I heard loud and clear from almost all of my elementary school principals, certainly others, is that they were concerned about they felt like in this heightened sense of awareness and concern that they would be inundated with kids being sent to the clinic at even the slightest thing. So just to restate, our plan is that parents will check children's temperatures before getting or other symptoms before putting them on the bus. After they arrive at school, their temperature will be checked again. And if any symptoms arrive during the day that appear to be COVID related, they would be sent to this special place where we'll have a dish.
Wherever she went, yes, to those questions.
Okay, so
Ms. Bowen.
I think her computer may have failed about now. Am I right? Those listening.
Yes, you are correct, Ms.
right
Bowen.
there.
And so you'll be taking over as
Okay.
vice chair.
Okay, and so I think she was just trying to impress the importance of the role and the job that these monitors would be continuing to carry out, Mr. Cox,
Right.
if I was following her line of thought. Were there other comments you want to make right now?
Just briefly that
Okay.
we will have a training for all of them, multiple trainings later on next week. If y'all approve it tonight, then we can actually make the offer, get the people on board, and get them trained up. So that's what these dollars will go toward.
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's second. All right, it's moved and approved. All in favor? Questions? None. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It passes 4. Unanimous 4.
Thank you.
Okay. I think now we are at 20 information items.
No, ma'am. There's a 19.04. Is that on? I'm not sure that's on your print version. Do you
show
see
me.
it? I can read it.
Wait, did I miss 1904?
Yes, ma'am. It
Okay.
may have been a late addition.
Yes, it was.
I think
It is, yes, I even read it. So we are at 1904 now. The superintendent recommends the re-advertisement. So who's going to speak to that, Mr. Superintendent?
Madam Chair, I will.
Yes.
It's Opal McKinney Williams.
Yes,
on
Opal.
July 14th. So this is the policy that you all approved back in March as an emergency policy. On July 14th, it was revised to move it from emergency status to more of a regular policy to take into account the governor's continued extension of the original Executive Order 20-69, which authorizes the board to meet in virtual status. You all approved advertisement of that policy back on July 14th. District staff, in reviewing the policy further in light of the fact that we moved from strictly virtual to this hybrid model now, made additional revisions. So that's why it needs to come back to you all for approval for re-advertisement. And it's now got a public hearing and adoption date of September 22nd, 2020.
Move approval.
It's been moved and second. Moved by Wood, second by, I think I heard Strickland.
Yes, ma'am.
Question, yes, ma'am?
No questions.
No questions. All in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. All right, that was 1904, and now are we at item 20?
Yes, ma'am.
I think information items, upcoming meetings, special school board meeting is listed under there. You will see the dates on for our board meetings. Their questions, concerns, corrections, thoughts about what you see there. Hearing none, seeing none. I don't think, do we vote on that right now? Nope, that's information. Okay. Reports from board liaisons? None. Superintendent's comments?
Briefly, Madam Chair, if I may. I know all of our meetings and a lot of the things we've done all summer long in preparing for reopening has been in the very, very bright sunshine of this thing called Facebook and social media. And I would just remind people, in my 56 years of life, I've learned one thing. There's not many things we can control, but we can control is our attitude and how our outlook on things. And I would just ask people that we are all doing our best as board members, as a superintendent, as principals, as teachers, and be kind. Just be kind to each other. It just disappoints me reading some of the comments in social media and some of the things that are being said. And I think folks need to understand that we're all human. And we're in this profession for a reason. That's because we care deeply for children. And we may not always agree, but one thing we can agree on is we need to treat each other with humanity and to simply be kind. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Very well stated and put. Hopefully, we will take heed to that. Continuing concerns from board members?
I have one, Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Wood?
Might be new, I'm not sure. And I've spoken to the superintendent about this. A couple of community members, Kim Damron, Roger Penholster, and Marie Claire Lehman, have been looking at a plan or a suggestion anyway, for us to start thinking about if our schools close, our sort of reopening point two. Right. And in particular, thinking about what kind of support systems we can put in place or lead and have the community help us, because we know there are going to be students out there that are going to need more support than perhaps they can get at home. Perhaps they're going to be in the digital academy, but their parents have to go to work, for example. And so ways that our churches and our community organizations and, we can come together and coordinate. And they have written up a plan that they would like to at least have us read and possibly discuss at an upcoming workshop. So I wanted to get the feeling of the rest of the board members if you're interested in that, and of the superintendent if he's interested in that, and just so we can go ahead and start that discussion and get some things in place. Even if we don't close, we still need it because we have children out there. We have over 50% of our children now who have chosen to be home, many for health concerns. And so just to start getting those community supports really organized, I think would be wise for this board and the school district.
Madam
Okay,
Chair,
thank you. Mr. Jones, yes.
I'm open to that conversation.
Okay.
And what would be an appropriate context by which it occurs either at our scheduled agenda review or at a time when we could workshop it. I would be open to any discussion of that sort and in concert with our own staff.
All right. Further comments? This idea has been brought up a time or two prior to tonight, and to have it brought up now just signals that it still is something that I think we're interested in. So at this point, do we need to try and decide on a time? This is August. Do we want something? Well, everybody's excited right now about August the 31st and getting school started again. But the plan after the plan is important. So could we perhaps look at a time in October for this plan to be discussed further, and perhaps we can read whatever is there? Would that be the idea that you would have, Ms. Wood, with the superintendents?
To be a lot sooner than that, because we need
Sooner?
to
All right.
lay the groundwork like now. So the sooner the
Okay.
just for an initial discussion, and then for the superintendent, of course, to appoint someone to take that on as a district priority to start working on. So,
Okay.
I'd like to talk about it Monday, honestly, but I'd like to leave that to the superintendent for his pleasure, what he'd like to do.
All right.
Well, and if I may, Madam Chair, I agree with Ms. Wood. This is the plan to support the plan. Even if schools run as normal as we expect and are very hopeful for, we still have 15,000 of our students out there in Digital Academy, and some are going to need more support than others. And we need to have some processes and partnerships in place to help provide those students those support systems. So the sooner the better. I had a conversation with Ms. Gregory. She has some ideas. We will meet again tomorrow and then have conversations next week of how we can prop up those kids who are going to need support that are currently in the Digital Academy, and those who may have to transition back and forth for quarantining reasons or because we're shutting classrooms down. But let me be also clear. Y'all heard you may or may not have heard Commissioner Corcoran last week when he talked to the Florida School Superintendents Association. He made it very clear that as we open our schools, responses to COVID need to be surgical, not sweeping, meaning that it was not going to be acceptable to him or the department for us to shut down entire schools or the entire district. Right. That we needed to look at individual students and individual classrooms, and that they were going to be the ones that were going to review anytime we decided to shut down a single classroom or a single school. So they were going to be watching. But so our intentions have to be surgical, at least to start in our response. But we will be monitoring very, very, very closely, as I'm sure you all will as well. But to your point, sooner rather than later, yes, we need to go out and have those support systems in place for those students at home that are going to need additional resources to help them be successful.
Would it be appropriate to share that plan for board members just to look over, so we have some content to maybe walk through with you and your staff?
Sure. The plan that you sent me from Ms. Dameron and Ms. Dr. Penholster?
Yes.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. I want to thank Kim Dameron, and Dr. Penholster. They love our community, and they have a lot of good ideas and a lot of good thoughts, and sometimes we agree to disagree philosophically, but the intentions are certainly good, and we have been all ears all summer long. When it comes to the reopening and listening to our constituents and listening to stakeholders, both in and not in our profession. So yes, I welcome their comments and their ideas with open arms, wide eyes, and open ears. So everything. There you go. So with that, yes, Dr. Gale will send that information to all the board members for review over the weekend, and then we can have discussions next week.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Wood. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. New issues. Yes, there is one. Congratulations.
Excuse me, Miss Bowen.
Yes,
I had continuing concerns
Yes, sir. We can go back to that. Yes, sir.
I apologize. I was just waiting. But,
I'm sorry. I should have taken a breath. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. But I wanted to ask the superintendent. Our priority is the reopening of schools, and I feel very confident that we are prepared for the same. There have been a number of ideas and projects that I have brought to the fore, and I would like, Mr. Superintendent, with your indulgence, I'd like to get started on setting dates for in the future, possibly in October, for projects that I have put before us. One, the Lincoln High School project. Also, Ms. Bowen and I brought before you for our consideration the convening of a committee to deal with equality and equity issues in our district. It was an idea that we both shared that was informed by a faculty member from Fort Braden, Michelle Pletch. And then I would also like to get with staff to set dates, a date where we can talk about convening a task force or work group that talks about the opportunity found in career and expanding career and technical education as a tool for ending cyclical poverty. And we talk about 32304, but certainly community-wide, and there's great interest from our business community to be engaged for the same. So I just want to put that before us again, and we find sometimes that we can be able to find out what's going to be our best approaches to include having these things, possibly presentations agended, either workshops, then also the convening of committees and how we make that happen. And I'll be honest, I need some assistance in that to move from rhetoric to work. And so I'm asking the superintendent to give me the flexibility or the leeway to get started on setting those dates for those 3 activities most specifically. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I think the superintendent is listening, and those topics have been brought up before, and we're going to move them from that tickler file so that we can get started on what we need to do.
What's
Now,
the tickler file?
It's an old-fashioned place where you put those important projects that you're going to do, and then you can look at them date-wise and get them done. Way back when the earth was cool and it really did work. But the earth, I'm just saying. Okay, now I'm going to take this breath under new issues from board members, and I am going to say how important it is for me, and I suspect us, to congratulate newly re-elected school board member Dee Rasmussen back to us as a board member, don't you think?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, great. Thank you, Strickland. Dee, you can't hear us.
And Miss Wood, even though she's been reelected as well. So we have 2.
I know.
There you go.
Yes, we have 2. So we thank them for being back and congratulate them. We continue to be Team Leon, working for our community, and so the work is still much out there to be done, and so we will continue to eat our Wheaties and get the job done. Miss Wood, would you like to say something? I think I know that look by now.
No, just thank you. And, I think we're all pretty honored to serve this great school district. And, appreciate all the work that everyone's doing to try to make this work. And we know it's going to be rough, and we know it's not going to be perfect. And, never been in the pandemic before, and under orders that we must start school. So here we go. And I agree with the superintendent. Let's be kind to each other.
Yes.
Let's just try to work together and make it as best we can.
Absolutely. Ms. Triplin, any comments?
No, ma'am. Just here's to another 4 years. I keep saying this. It can't get any worse than this, right? But we said that last year with the bus. And I told somebody the other day, I'd take that bus problem back any day of the week compared to what we're going through now. But it can't get any
Choose
worse.
your
We're going to get
poisons.
through
I
this, and
know.
we're going to get through it together. And I tell you what, as we hear what other districts are doing, we are not alone, people, and we have so much to be proud of here in Leon County under really great leadership and just a great team. I mean, I'm in awe of what they've done in the last few months. So thanks for the opportunity to say that.
They are outstanding. Mr. Jones? Just
thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Okay. Is there anything else to come before this board tonight? Then we are adjourned.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.